Because in a traditional school, I was homeschooling my daughter when I was teaching her the alphabet through hopscotch. What school is going to do that? None. And if you're concerned about your child learning that way, again, here's the good news. She still knows her alphabet. That's the point. Okay? Hey, welcome back to my channel. It's Melissa here with another video. If you've already subscribed to this channel, thank you a million times. Unless you've been living under a rock and you don't know what's been going on, America's in the middle of a pandemic, and as a result, school and education decisions are being made all across America. And ultimately, a lot of people are being forced. They are being, I don't want to say forced, but I guess it is forced. A lot of people are finding themselves making the decision to homeschool their children and or participate in virtual learning. As a result, I've been doing a series of videos explaining my experience with homeschooling, as well as just kind of helping you with step-by-step, how do you get started? And then this video is a result of some of the questions that I'm being asked about what supplies do I need? And before I jump into what supplies you need, I want to make sure that we have a conversation about your child's learning style. Why is that important? It's very important to kind of figure out what your child's learning style is, because if you create this homeschool environment that's not conducive to your child's learning needs and their learning style, it's going to be a part of the frustration that you may incur as a result of not having an environment that's conducive to your child. Now, if your philosophy is you get what you get and you don't throw a fit, then that's fine as well. But I do believe, for me as an educator, I feel like children should be able to learn in an environment. I feel like they will thrive in an environment that's conducive to their learning styles. First one, which is my absolute favorite, kinesthetic. That child that is a kinesthetic learner, they like to move. If you have a child that likes to go, they're here, they're there, they don't want to sit down, that's probably how your child likes to learn. So here's the thing, when you're asking me about supplies, I'm telling you right now, a desk is probably not going to be their best friend. They're not going to probably thrive. Now, does that mean that you never have them sit at the desk? That's not what I'm saying. However, you want to provide that type of child the opportunity to move and learn. So for an example, if they're going over math problems and you find that they're rocking back and forth as they're giving you answers, I know it's our instinct to say, hey, keep still. But that child may be moving to process through the answer. So you want to encourage that movement so that they can get to their ultimate goal, which is to get to the right answer. I have a child who is very much kinesthetic. Like, she is all over the place. And even to this day, she's in her 20s and she go. And I'm not like that, but she is. I taught her alphabets with hopscotch, because sitting down, putting her to a desk, she wasn't having it. She was not interested. And she wants to demonstrate. She wants me to demonstrate. She wants to use her body in the process of learning. So that's that child. So when you're asking me about supplies, how do I prepare for my child who, yes, that sounds like my child. She cannot keep still. My number one tip is, don't stifle that. It's okay, especially in a virtual learning homeschool environment. If you haven't already, check out my previous videos. I talk about the advantages of homeschooling for children. I am a 100% advocate for allowing homeschooling to fit into your home and not wreck your home. But not only that, to fit into your child's life, and you don't have to mimic what was happening in school. You should not just sit that child down. They're going to have a very difficult time sitting down for 8 hours with a pen and a paper, and you want them to express themselves. You want them to process those answers. They have to get up and get on the move. Those are the kids that enjoy the brain breaks in traditional school, where they get up and they stretch and they run around and they go. Those are those kids. Think movement, think motion, think all of their senses, not just sit down, I lecture you, you talk back to me, you take this test and we're done. They are not the best for that environment. So that's the first type of learner. Auditory learners. These are learners that prefer you to speak to them. They process during lectures. They process when they are being spoken to. Don't necessarily ask them as they are learning a concept to speak, because they're listening and they're processing. Okay? They are natural listeners. I also have an auditory learner. He had to have a tape recorder because as much as I'm talking right now, he still needed that time to go back and play everything that I was saying so that he could process it more. That's the beautiful part of homeschooling. You can allow that movement to happen. You can allow that listening to take place. If your child is virtual learning and they are an auditory learner, you can go back and you should be able to replay those things and have them listen and listen. They usually have a hard time with written tests. Typically, they're not the strongest with writing. They're not, and when I say with writing, I'm not saying they can't write and they're not intelligent. It's just for them to rehearse what they just learned. It's easier for them to talk it out. So for an example, I would give my son, hey, I'm just telling you about the 3 little bears. Read about the 3 little bears. Then you give him a written test. Absolutely failed it. It was a goat in the story and everything else. But then if I said, okay, tell me about the 3 little bears, he can recite it verbatim. And so that's the difference between the learning. That's the difference between how they learn. So as you're asking me what supplies, and that's going to be the next video. I'm not going to really talk about supplies for these learners. That would be the next video. I want to really get you focused on how your child learns. The next video that we talk about will be what should I do to make a classroom conducive for each element of learner. Okay? You may have a child that learns a certain subject a certain way, and then another subject in an absolute different way. So you're going to have to consider that as well. The next one, visual. I'm a very visual learner, generally speaking. Visual learners are fast talkers. Visual learners are impatient. I guess I'm telling on myself. Visual learners are fast talkers. Visual learners are impatient, and that's how I am. The worst thing you can do for me is to get me in a meeting. I want you to get to the point, and I pick up very fast. Just do the PowerPoint. Just give me the PowerPoint, and I'll go through it myself, and I can learn it. I don't need you saying anything. I don't learn that way. And that's the frustrating part for me when I do have to go to certain meetings, because my mind drifts off into everything else. When visual learners are learning, and it's a weird thing if you're not a visual learner, when people speak to me, I visualize what they're saying. I literally have created a whole entire story based on, and that's how I remember things. With that visual learner, math was very difficult for me because I needed to see it. And sometimes it is what it is. After I got to a certain level in math, it was like the teacher was like, well, don't you? And I couldn't see it. And because I couldn't see it, I didn't do well. So again, you're talking about supplies for these type of learners. That doesn't mean that they won't like reading. That doesn't mean that they won't like the movement. That doesn't mean that they don't like the auditory. But I'm telling you, as a visual learner, as someone who learns visually, one of the things that I absolutely can't stand is lecturing. As much as I like to talk, I don't want no one talking to me forever. Just the best thing you can do for a visual learner, if they're self-motivated, okay? Here's the PowerPoint. Here's the syllabus. That works for them. That may not work for that kinesthetic learner. That may not work for that auditory learner. That auditory learner may need you to actually read pages 1 through 8. Don't look at these styles of learning as if they are a handicap or as if there's something wrong with your child. And I think that a lot of parents, the frustration with homework, we want our kids to come home and they have to sit at the table. Auditory learner may need that music in their ears as they're processing that science. They may need to walk around the house with that book in their hand. It's going to be okay. It is okay especially if they are, and I was going to say, especially if they're elementary school, but it really doesn't matter. I believe that we want to encourage children to learn in the best environment that is conducive to them. I am not the type of parent where spit the gum out. You're not allowed to, listen, That's not me. My children are successful if they have jazz in their ear or hip hop and rap and they're mastering those math problems. That's what you need to provide. If your auditory learner is saying they don't understand and you know that they understand, you may have to read it to them and have them recite it. Okay? And here's the thing. I'm here to tell you, I have an almost 30-year-old who's an auditory learner. I hear your question. They can't go on like that. How are they going to learn? Here's the thing. There are guidelines, there are protections, whether it's an IEP or just development and coping as they grow older. My point is, I have a 30-year-old and the 24, she joined the whole army as a kinesthetic learner, okay? So I know your concern is traditional classroom, traditional jobs, they have to conform. Not necessarily, because you want to encourage your kids to be the best that they're going to be, okay? I am, like I said, I am very much a visual learner, but when I did work outside of the home, when I worked and we had meetings, I wasn't like, I had the discipline, and the maturity to say, I'm in a meeting. And luckily I worked for some place, they already knew. When it was time to have a meeting, I had my coloring books, I had my markers, and I doodled. Because again, fast talkers, impatient, uses words and phrases to give a picture. So if you're taking forever to get to the point and you are PowerPointing me to death and I can't control that PowerPoint, I have a problem with that. So I say that to say, they're in first grade. They're in kindergarten. They're in 10th, 11th, 12th grade. They'll be fine. Your children will turn out well. As a matter of fact, I believe that they will be even more successful if you encourage and enrich their learning through their learning style. It's gonna cut back on the arguments, the sulking. The kid is doing the math problem and they don't want to sit at the table. They are more creative and they are able to process when they're standing up with one sock on, drinking a smoothie, but they're getting those answers right. Absolutely. And if you're like, oh, well, they're gonna be on a Zoom call with the classroom, that's still okay, because that's the way your child learns. And then if you want to have part of the discussion where you're like, okay, during this class time, I need you to be sitting down. But here's this ball. Here's this stress ball. Fidget. Here's the fidget. Here, you can shake your leg. You do whatever you feel like you need to do. But they have to move, and you should allow them the freedom of expression in that moment. Finally, reading and writing. So these are your readers. These are your bookworms. These are your people. They love the reading and the writing style of learning. Your more traditional classroom settings. These children probably thrive from the teacher doing their lectures. Here's the book. Read, probably reading comprehension through the roof. They enjoy reading. They enjoy writing. I learned that way when it comes to English. So again, I'm a visual learner in some areas, but then in other areas, I'm definitely a reader and writer. I want you to just give me the book. I will read, I will process it, and I will answer the questions. One thing, I am not auditory. I do not want you, oh my goodness, do not lecture me. Don't even talk to me. 4 major learning styles. And again, this video was birthed because you're asking me about supplies. You're asking me about learning environments. And at this point in the video, you should understand why it's very important to learn how your child learns, to explore how your child learns each subject so that you know what you need to get. With that being said, please look out for the next video because I'm going to give you a list of supplies that you should get based on these types of learners, but also based on just what are the requirements from the district. Leave a comment down below. Let me know how this video was helpful for you. Let me know the learning styles that your children have. I have all 4 types of learners, and maybe, like I said, in different ways. I have and again, don't think because you have a reader and writer, that child is better because those kids fit into traditional schooling very well. because that's what traditional school is. I'm going to have you read, you're going to write, I'm going to lecture a little bit, but then you're going to go back to reading. So those kids fit very well. Visual learners, certain subjects, they fit very well. I feel like the kinesthetic and the auditory learners, they are the ones, depending on the grade levels, that are the most misunderstood and the most underserved, I feel like. Because in a traditional school, I was homeschooling my daughter when I was teaching her the alphabet through hopscotch. What school is going to do that? None. And if you're concerned about your child learning that way, again, here's the good news. She still knows her alphabet. That's the point. As always, thanks for watching. Bye-bye.